Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Clark of the Paydirt Prospector here at the Metals Investor Forum in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm here with Ian Harris of Outcrop Silver. He's the CEO. He's going to tell us all about the company. Ian, thanks for joining me.
Oh, Jeff, a pleasure always to sit down and chat.
Absolutely. So before we jump into the company, there's a lot of exciting things happening with the company. But before we do that, Ian, one thing that really impressed me was you look younger than me, which I hate, okay? But you've had already a storied career. You've had a lot of successes in this industry. So tell us briefly about the successes you've had, because these play in directly into Outcrop Silver and you leading that company.
I'll start with the trick is living in South America keeps you young.
Right.
But yeah, I was looking at it today and I did the count and I put 25 years of experience. It's actually 30 now.
Wow.
Right, so maybe that South American air does help a little bit, but I'm a mining engineer, and really started and even paid for school working in active mines, and that quickly changed when I went down to South America and involved in some of the early startups of San Cristobal in Bolivia, and then Corriente at Mirador, which was the first industrial scale mine in the history of Ecuador. But I like being part of projects and evaluate projects from a perspective of, can they become mines, right? And how to get them there.
That's the bottom line.
And it's more, and because of those years, 15 have been living in South America, I think I like to look at projects with a different lens, that it's not just the technical steps, which are critical in creating value and de-risking a project, but also creating the platform socially and politically to advance a project, right? I'm a strong believer that it goes way beyond what we would call ESG, on getting things and doing special things and working with passion, building supply chains, working, maximizing local employment, but on a whole other level, maintaining a high reputation nationally, and over time that drives political will. And I think that applies no matter where you work. I think people are more comfortable with different jurisdictions, but that same formula applies over and over again. Because the truth is, we have a lot of different projects in the world, but very few eventually get built. And really, that should be the purpose of the capital that we're deploying.
Yeah, good point. Yes. Now, I've been to the project. I was there last June. Thank you for that trip. That was an awesome trip. Ian lives in country. He speaks the language. He lives there. I was really impressed with the project itself and all the people that are working there. But like you said, the social involvement, the company's really doing a good job of getting the community involved, getting them behind the project, supporting it. Because this eventually will be a mine, in my opinion. So tell us a little bit more about that. You really are reaching into the community and being proactive and very positive about the benefits of mining there.
Yeah, I like talking about the results. I mean, really like, we do bees. Why bees? Because there's farming. But more importantly, because there was a guy who was passionate about the importance of bees. And that same little program, working with somebody with a lot of passion, now they want to reproduce that same program that we've done in Falan and do it throughout all of Tolima.
Yes.
Right? So attaching to that passion, right? Meaning you're being supportive of that passion. And obviously there's obvious benefits to doing these things. Right now there's a group of head of household women that want to start supplying the uniforms, right? They have the passion, they want to do it, right? But now we're getting them the training and getting them all and how to build a business and all these things. So, we can start and having them start making and fabricating the uniforms locally. Those type of things go a long way, right?
Absolutely.
But I think the result, after your trip, we had a very emotional experience because, every town has their carnival, and they wanted to put up the new letters of Falan. And each one, it's the new Instagram thing where people want to take a picture with the Falan behind it, but right in the plaza, in the center of the town, right? Falan. And each one of those letters is a key characteristic of Falan. And L, I showed it at the most recent presentation, L with a solar panel on it and a geologist looking at a piece of core represented the legacy of mining and the future of silver. So it's beyond, do we should we? No, it's now a part. The project is also a part of their identity, right? And a source of their pride. And so to me, that tells me we're doing the right things. We just have to do more of it, but we're on the right pathway.
Absolutely.
Because projects are not one drill season. They're not getting 20,000 meters done, right? They're year after year creating growth over time and getting, looking towards the future.
There are dozens of things the company is doing. I saw it firsthand. It's been an entire half day with the community and all the things that the company is backing to do. But let's jump into the project real quick. One thing that attracted me to was not just the resource, but all those trends below the resource that show there could be a lot of potential here.
Yeah, so in big buckets, right? We have 37 million ounces defined in the northeast section of the project, call it covering about a third of an overall trend. In the permitted titles, we have about 17 kilometers of trend and actually have the applications, which means they're actually working to convert to get the permit on 30 kilometers. But there's enough meat within that 17 kilometers. And so we said, to create more value, we have to demonstrate getting them to big increases in the overall resource, right? Silver projects, primary silver projects are as rare as hen's teeth, right? But there's that block, that 100+ million ounce deposit that puts you in a completely different category. And we want to be in that category because we know it creates value. So that means we got to get away from the northeast and start moving south.
Yeah.
And it also talks about why the relationships locally, the reputation you've established is so important because you're moving into new people's backyards. Right. And so that we've been able to take this, for me, speaks volumes of our values, the work that's being done, the relationship that's been created. So the idea this year, number one, is to say, okay, we got 37 million ounces here. We need to prove high-grade silver in the center, high-grade silver at the end, and people can see a pathway of how we're going to build out a much larger resource. And then the other piece is, by the end of the year, we have all these different targets that we've been testing, and we have a simple formula. It is success rate, average thickness, average grade, total potential ounces, how much ounces do I add per meter, right? And I need to make sure, I want to do it, add ounces as cheaply as possible. I know what I'm valued today. I know how many ounces I have, so I know my value per ounce in the ground. At today's market, I want to add additional ounces for much, much cheaper than that number. Because that means I know that the work that we're doing on the ground is going to create value. And the nice thing too is that we don't just use a project level number, or we use outcrop silver, top to bottom total cost. It's one of the reasons we decided we better go immediately to 2 drills now. We'd like to probably bump it up, but 2 is the right number for us because it gets us that dollars per meter company-wide. How many ounces are we adding? And that is much lower than our current valuation. So we want to execute. Let's not forget that I'm a true believer in silver and can see where things are going. And we saw your presentation on the multipliers. But for me, I want it now. I want it based on reality on the ground. And of course, being one of the highest grade primary silver projects in the world, we're highly leveraged to if silver runs.
Oh yeah, your high grade, broad intercepts. This is a rich deposit, high payable. So you got a lot of things going for you already in that deposit. Real quick, tell us what are the catalysts for the company over the next 6-12 months?
Yeah, the nice thing is right now we've got 2 rigs. We're testing a lot of new areas, and I kind of want to walk people through the news. Normally the first thing that happens is the discovery hole on a new vein. But normally what we're looking for is, did we find the vein? Is it mineralized? And then we start hunting for the ore shoots. A great example was Jimenez that we just did, but the expectation is we're going to be now on the hunt for where the ore shoot is, right?
Yeah.
So there's some variability in these vein systems. But every time we get a hit, we get excited, and then we start the hunt. And once we find it, then we know we can move on because it's added to that checkbox of this is now something we can now drill out for resources. So we're going to be having news at least on a monthly basis with drill hole results. I think that we put out a release recently that talked about that entire program, which is kind of a good cheat sheet when we're putting out additional results. And then the big conversion for next year is that we are now going to be mixing it up and saying, we're not just testing new targets, now we're going to start drilling for resources.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more mundane, but the nice thing is we would like to get to a point at the end of next year where we're updating the resource to be able to show these large growth steps in the overall resource.
Yeah, so not 37 to 39, but something much bigger. That's me saying that, not Ian. So, but I'm very along the suck. I'm overweight. I've been to Colombia. I really like it. Ian, thanks for joining me. I'm Jeff Clark, Paydirt Prospector at the Metals Investor Forum.